What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 17, Thursday Night Football.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
Okay, in this video, I'm going to give you my top picks for the Thursday Night Football Showdown between the Dallas Cowboys and the Tennessee Titans. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay, guys, NFL Week 17. Let's take a look at this Thursday Night Football Showdown between the Dallas Cowboys and the Tennessee Titans. So at the quarterback position, I like Dak Prescott from the Dallas Cowboys. The Tennessee Titans have the 6th worst defense overall, give up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Dak Prescott has averaged 19.1 fantasy points per game on the season. He gets an average of 3.6 rush attempts per game, but he's been rushing the ball more lately, and he's going to be about 69% owned, projected at 19.6 fantasy points here tonight. He's 10,600 DraftKings salary. Vegas thinks there's going to be 39.5 points scored in this game, with the Cowboys favored by 12.5. Now, Dak Prescott has scored 32, 22, and 16 fantasy points in the last 3 games, and he got 6, 5, and 6 rush attempts in those games. So rushing the ball a little bit above average, above his season average the past 3 games, gives him a little bit more fantasy upside if that trend continues. It's a fantastic matchup. So I like Dak Prescott here versus the Tennessee Titans. Okay, so the quarterback for the Tennessee Titans is going to be Malik Willis. He's 8,600 DraftKings salary, scored 12 fantasy points last week. He did have 7 rush attempts. He's going to be about 47% owned, projected at 12.1 fantasy points here tonight. Maybe he can muster 15 fantasy points, but it's going to be a tough game for Malik Willis. So the interesting thing about the Tennessee Titans is they don't really need to win this game. In fact, they're resting a lot of their players because their big game comes next week versus the Jacksonville Jaguars for their shot to get into the playoffs. So I almost feel like the Tennessee Titans are going to kind of give this one to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Derrick Henry is out, so it's possible that Malik Willis ends up throwing the ball more than he would if Derrick Henry was in. So he could have some action here, but I think I prefer Dak Prescott here if I'm going to play a quarterback. So I'm going to pass on Malik Willis. Oh, the Dallas Cowboys have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they've been pretty good versus opposing quarterbacks. Now, the Cowboys do have their playoff seed locked up, but I just have a feeling that they're going to put a beating on these Tennessee Titans, who might not have the will to win this game. So I'm going to pass on Malik Willis, but you will get a significant salary savings and much less ownership here if you go with Malik Willis. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. So a stud on the slate. Well, actually, Tony Pollard is the most expensive running back on the slate. He is questionable. He did not practice on Wednesday, so keep an eye on that injury news for Tony Pollard. That could be setting up Ezekiel Elliott for a pretty big day tonight, pretty big night. So I think I'm going to go with, I think my favorite running back on the slate, well, for the Dallas Cowboys, I like Ezekiel Elliott. And the Tennessee Titans have the 6th worst defense overall. Now, they are pretty good defending opposing running backs. And Ezekiel Elliott has averaged 13.5 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 15.7 rush attempts per game, 1.6 pass target per game. He's going to be about 47% owned, but expect that ownership to shoot up quite a bit if Tony Pollard sits this one out. And Ezekiel Elliott projected at 12.3 fantasy points here tonight. He's 8,800 DraftKings salary, and it could be a running game script if the Dallas Cowboys get ahead by a couple of touchdowns. Ezekiel Elliott is rested and good to go. He's been sharing the load with Tony Pollard, so he should have plenty of runway to go. He scored 13, 15, and 17 fantasy points in the last 3 games, up a 16, 16, and 15 rush attempts on top of 1, 2, and 5 pass targets. So decent volume, but he hasn't been worked too hard because he's been sharing the ball with Tony Pollard. So I like Ezekiel Elliott here versus the Tennessee Titans.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, now with Derrick Henry out, this opens up a monster value play with the backup running back for the Tennessee Titans, Hassan Haskins, who's expected to carry the bulk of the load in the absence of Derrick Henry. So Hassan Haskins, he's been, you can't look at his season numbers here because he's been playing behind Derrick Henry. So throw those out the window. He's going to be about 46% owned. He's projected at 8.2 fantasy points here tonight. And the reason I like this pick, and he's such a good value play, he's only 3,000 DraftKings salary. This guy could get 20 plus touches tonight at only 3,000 DraftKings salary. So there's pretty much no way I'm going to make a lineup without Hassan Haskins. So I like Hassan Haskins here versus the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. So the stud on the slate is CeeDee Lamb for the Dallas Cowboys, playing the Tennessee Titans, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they give up the absolute most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. CeeDee Lamb has averaged 18.4 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 9 pass targets per game. He even gets close to 1 rush attempt per game. He's been on the field for 88% of the snaps, going to be about 64% owned, projected at 18.4 fantasy points here tonight. He's 11,400 DraftKings salary, but he does look to have the highest ceiling on the slate, and it's not even close when it comes to wide receivers. I think he more than doubles the season average of any other wide receiver on the slate. Yes, he does. So he is well worth the price tag. And CeeDee Lamb has scored 37, 23, and 8 fantasy points in the last 3 games, off of 11, 7, and 6 pass targets. So I think I'll play a lineup with CeeDee Lamb, but I think I'm going to have somewhat of a balanced lineup here tonight. CeeDee Lamb, a little bit expensive, but he's definitely got the most upside on the slate. So I like CeeDee Lamb here versus the Tennessee Titans. Okay, now coming down in salary here for the Dallas Cowboys, you have Michael Gallup, and he's averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 5.3 pass targets per game. He's been on the field for 75% of the snaps, going to be about 23% owned. and he's projected at 10.9 fantasy points here tonight. He's 7,000 DraftKings salary, and Michael Gallup has scored 14, 1, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 7, 2, and 6 pass targets. And I do think some of these other wide receivers for the Dallas Cowboys are going to get a lot of pass targets. I just don't see them feeding the ball to CeeDee Lamb all game. There's no need to do that. I think they're going to share the ball here, throw it a little bit to Michael Gallup, throw it a little bit to Noah Brown. So look for these lower salary Dallas Cowboys wide receivers to possibly put up some big numbers here tonight. So I like Michael Gallup here versus the Tennessee Titans. Okay, now for the Tennessee Titans, these wide receivers haven't got the action that they'll probably get here tonight because of Derrick Henry being on the field and commanding the touch count, the rush attempts, and the pass targets. So with Derrick Henry off the field, you could see more pass targets to these wide receivers. You could see more action for these wide receivers for the Tennessee Titans. Now you have this quarterback, Malik Willis. Is he going to be able to connect with these guys? We aren't sure. But Robert Woods is probably my favorite wide receiver from the Tennessee Titans. And he does have a good matchup, or the wide receivers for the Titans have a good matchup here tonight. The Dallas Cowboys give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. So Robert Woods has averaged 6.3 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 5.1 pass targets per game. He's been on the field for 78% of the snaps, only going to be about 12% owned. I think that ownership is a little bit low, and he's projected at 8.1 fantasy points here tonight. Only 5,000 DraftKings salary. He scored 7, 3, and 10 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 4, 4, and 7 pass targets. So I like Robert Woods here versus the Dallas Cowboys.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. Our NBA tools are awesome. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Now, the wide receivers for the Tennessee Titans, I mean, you can almost just roll a dice here. You have Treylon Burks, who's averaging 8.7 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 4.3 pass targets per game, been on the field for 73% of the snaps, gonna be about 17% owned. He's a 5,400 DraftKings salary, projected at 8 fantasy points here tonight. Scored 2 fantasy points off of 2 pass targets and 1 rush attempt in his game back last week. But again, with no Derrick Henry, I do expect more volume and a good matchup. I do expect more passing volume to these Tennessee Titans wide receivers. Plus, it's probably going to be a passing game script for the Tennessee Titans as they fall behind and look to give Malik Willis some extra work or some extra looks in the passing game. So I like Treylon Burks here versus the Dallas Cowboys. And the other wide receiver you could consider here for the Tennessee Titans is Nick Westbrook. And he's averaging 5.6 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 3.1 pass targets per game. On the field for 77% of the snaps, going to be about 9% owned. He's projected at 5.2 fantasy points here tonight. He's 4,600 DraftKings salary. So these Tennessee Titans wide receivers all around 5K DraftKings salary. And like I said, roll a dice. We have no idea which guy is going to get the targets, score the touchdown, no one really sticks out here for the Tennessee Titans, but they all have relatively low salaries, so I will mix and match these guys in my lineups. And let's just look at if you want a sleeper pick for the Tennessee Titans for a wide receiver, you could take a look at Chris Conley. He's only going to be about 3% owned. He's on the field for 52% of the snaps, and he didn't score any fantasy points with any pass targets last game. Not sure if he played. Looks like last game he was only on the field for 8% of the snaps. His season average, he's on the field for 52% of the snaps, so this is a deep sleeper pick, but he's only $1,200 DraftKings salary. So if you're looking for that long shot wide receiver that could possibly get some pass targets here and maybe score a touchdown and crush value, you could take a look at Chris Conley from the Tennessee Titans playing the Dallas Cowboys. And I think that's as deep as I want to go with the sleeper picks, although it looks like you got T.Y. Hilton from the Dallas Cowboys, who got 1 pass target last game, scored 6 fantasy points. He's $4,400 DraftKings salary. Who knows how much they're going to use him here tonight. I wish he was a little bit less expensive for $4,400. That's pretty close to, Noah Brown, Treylon Burks, Robert Woods, Nick Westbrook. So it's a risky play, going to be about 6% owned, but it's certainly possible they give him more looks here tonight, considering Tennessee Titans, I'm guessing, are going to roll over this game and let Dallas Cowboys play practice out there. So I guess he's another sleeper pick. Probably like him maybe a little bit more than Chris Conley. Although Chris Conley is so cheap, he really doesn't need much to hit value. So another sleeper pick, I like T.Y. Hilton here versus the Tennessee Titans. Okay, moving on to the tight end position. I like Dalton Schultz from the Dallas Cowboys. The Tennessee Titans give up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. And Dalton Schultz has averaged 8.6 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 5.4 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 38% owned. He's on the field for 79% of the snaps, projected at 10.5 fantasy points here tonight. He's $6,600 DraftKings salary. Dalton Schultz has scored 7, 4, and 15 fantasy points in the last 3 games, off of 4, 4, and 10 pass targets. So good matchup here for Dalton Schultz. I think he looks pretty good here. He could be an interesting play. Ownership is up there. Price tag looks just about right. So I like Dalton Schultz here versus the Tennessee Titans. But the sleeper pick, probably my favorite sleeper pick on this slate, the guy who's probably going to get the most opportunity here for a low salary and low ownership, the least risky sleeper pick, I'll call him. I like Austin Hooper from the Tennessee Titans playing the Dallas Cowboys, who have been good versus opposing tight ends. Austin Hooper has averaged 5.9 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 3.3 pass targets per game. He's been on the field for 51% of the snaps, going to be about 10% owned, projected at 4.9 fantasy points here tonight. I think that's a little bit low. I just got a feeling that he's going to get maybe 5 or 6 pass targets here tonight. I'm going to bump up that projection to 8 fantasy points. And he's only $3,600 DraftKings salary. And this could be a passing game script. Willis could be looking to dump the ball off to his tight end. So Austin Hooper scored 4, 5, and 12 fantasy points in the last 3 games, off of 4, 4, and 5 pass targets. So I like Austin Hooper here versus the Dallas Cowboys.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.